the Washington Street corridor is a heavily traveled area. There's lots of folks going home or getting off of work, and as you can tell behind me, that there is a school. And so I believe that child or student was a student here of the school. And so we are speaking with those family members at this time, trying to ascertain and piece together what exactly occurred. So I will entertain questions, but keep in mind this is very early on in the investigation. I can also tell you that both of those drivers have stayed on scene and they are cooperating with investigators as we speak. Both of them will be transported to Eskenazi Hospital, where there will be a blood draw conducted, and that's standard procedure whenever there's been an accident involving serious bodily injury and or death.
Officer Young, can you talk about the position of the vehicles right now? Who hit who, how it started, where it traveled?
Sure. To my understanding, one vehicle was traveling westbound on the Washington Street, and the other vehicle potentially was traveling northbound along the Ritter Avenue corridor. However, it's so early in this investigation that will come out, speeds, times, etc. However, I want to applaud the community because there were several, as I stated before, we received multiple calls. With that being said, there were multiple people who actually tried to render aid to that child and those two adults. One of those adults stated that he was a crossing guard, to my knowledge. And so I would like to applaud the community, as well as our first responders who responded. Those community members actually called 911 multiple times, also tried to render aid to that child, as we stated before.
Do you know if the child was in the crosswalk and the crossing guard was crossing that child with?
That is correct. The crossing guard was just like anybody else doing their job. I'm not sure about if one of those drivers disregarded that crossing guard. I'm not sure. That will come out in the investigation. Kind of too early to say who's at fault. However, I cannot applaud the community enough for sticking around. And our accident investigators, we're actually speaking with lots of witnesses at this moment.
Can you say if there were other children in the crosswalk at the time also being crossed?
I believe that there were other children in the crosswalk. However, none of those children were struck as preliminary investigation reports. However, we will be out here sometime, as you can imagine, trying to piece together, trying to figure out speed, etc., driver factors, speed, etc. So,
Officer Young, we saw a woman at one point being taken in handcuffs and put in a police car. Can you say if she was one of the drivers here on scene?
To my knowledge, she was one of the drivers. We're not calling her a suspect or a person of interest at this point. She was transported, and so sometimes that is our procedure whenever we're transporting someone from a scene that they have wrist restraints placed on them to be taken.
And our family on scene of all of the people
involved? To my knowledge, preliminary reports suggest that there were family members on scene. I believe that child actually potentially lives in this neighborhood. And so as you can imagine, whenever you hear or see something like that, we tend to want to respond, which you should. And so we've had multiple people from the neighborhood come up to Washington Street trying to piece together exactly what occurred, just basically asking what they can do. And I think that's important as a community, that we've had people come forth providing our investigators with information. And so as I stated before, we'll be out here for some time, Emily. That's a very good question. We'll be out here for some time trying to piece together and ascertain exactly what happened.
Officer Young, do we know approximate age of the child, boy or girl?
Too early in the investigation as of right now. As we go throughout the evening, I'll be able to update the news desk as far as age, etc. And like I said, I know that was a child and a student, and one of those adults was a crossing guard that was transported as well too. Our East District Commander, he's on scene trying to assist with this investigation as well too.
And the other adult, we don't know.
That is correct. That is correct.
We do believe this student was a student here at IPS 50.
And we are in talks with the school behind me so that we can, and they've been very cooperative with the investigation, and we will try to provide them updates as well as you all.